we're going classic tier ranking, Derek, Jon Jones is the ultimate S tier. He is at the top, but Ciryl Gane is right there, man. A class all day long.
Once he starts sensing the kill, the feet start getting set. The shots start thudding a little bit harder. And I think that Ciryl Gane felt disrespected in this matchup, given the narrative behind it.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Ciryl Gane showed the world there's still levels to this game that we have going on. The heavyweight division is in trouble because Bon Kamin is making his third run at the title now, something like that, folks. It was an interesting card. Paris showed out. You gotta love the beauty of the international crowd, and I hope everybody was there, tuned in, locked in, not only to watch it, but to win you some money, because our Bloody Water podcast consensus picks, they was hitting this week. Folks, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water podcast. My name is Derick G, your host, and bringing in my co-host, the Santa Fe Bomber, the New Mexico native, AJ, man. We just said Paris was showing out, man. You gotta love when we get these overseas crowds because they're MMA starved. They don't get it all the time, man. We need more of this, right?
100%, Derek. It was a night of excitement, man. Sprawling and brawling for Ciryl Gane, and if you're not jumping, you're not French. It was a wild time in the octagon. I love seeing the crowd actually show up. We were talking about in the pre-show, the Paris fans, they're very proud people over there, and they showed up for their own. It was a good weekend, brother. How'd you feel?
I felt good, man, because that crowd was almost rivaling Brazil to a degree. It's like, oh, man, do I want to fight there, man? I mean, even Ciryl Gane, I think even in the fights for the French favorites, I guess I should say, they were getting boozed too, right? So nobody was safe here. It's like you perform or you getting the harsh treatment. Either way, Ciryl Gane showed out. Domination, clinical performance against the polar bear Serghei Spivac. Manon Fiorot, listen, man. It's a cluster up there in the top of the flyweight division. She wants it. Blanchfield wants it. She had an impressive victory over the two-time former champion, Rose Namajunas. Little controversy. We'll talk about all of that good stuff. But AJ, before we jump into any of that, we need to talk to the people about how we did this weekend. Let's assess some numbers. So let's jump straight into a prop recap. As you can see, folks, on the little graphic earlier, I did win the week, but it was a very close margin. And what I want to talk about here, AJ, Bloody Water Podcast, consensus picks. This is our bread and butter. This is what we pride ourselves on. And we came very close to a clean sweep, but we made one critical error, AJ. And sometimes I fall for it, you fall for it, but we say that we can't. It's narratives, right? It's the Rose Namajunas history, track record. Everything going into this fight was risky. And then how the fight played out turned out a little bit worse. But just any revisionist history thoughts on the Rose pick?
Well, Derek, we fall into this trap all the time. I'm a die-hard Thug Loyalist fan, and sometimes the gut tells you to choose against it, but the brain says, I'm a homie, so I'm right until the day the wheels fall off. And unfortunately, it looks like the wheels fall off, and not fully. But again, amidst the controversy, it was a very good performance by Manon Fiorot.
Absolutely, man. It shows that she's battle-tested, she's ready, and at the end of the day right here, man, she's a big flyweight, and that definitely helps in her favor. Let's talk about the ones that we won. Ciryl Gane, Benoit Saint Denis, and Volkan Oezdemir. AJ, that was like stealing money from a baby and then taking it to the bank and getting like a 500x return on it, man. Like, that was cash money right there. You gotta love it. Especially the Ciryl Gane pick, man. That's another one where when he opened as a minus 175 favorite, it was almost like you're not gonna get this guy at these odds for very much longer, only when people are down on him. Do we look back on this one and do we truly say this was a y'all must have forgot moment for Ciryl Gane?
100%, man. Everybody thought the explosion of his ground game against Jon Jones was going to be the end of his career. We saw him first shot from Serghei Spivac. Those hips hit the ground, looking real nice, sprawling like we were saying. He came to brawl. It was very impressive. I think not a lot of people are going to be looking over Ciryl Gane in the future.
That's right. So bringing up the screen one more time, folks, as you can see, lots of gold on both sides right here. Contention. Pick right there. I had the last pirate, Morgan, Charriere, AJ, Manolo. Didn't really work out on the flip side. It's the way that the cookie crumbles sometimes. I'm a little disappointed in one aspect, AJ. We got to get better. We need to talk about the props. Volkan Oezdemir TKO plus 115 slipped out of my fingers, brother. The money just slipped away. He had the TKO. Everything lined up exactly for the pick. And then what do we know? Club and sub. It almost makes too much sense. I should have went sub. Plus 1,600, AJ. I could have hit on that, but I didn't. Let's talk about the Rose decision, right? At the end of the day, just bad bet.
Bad bet all around. You got to follow the gut, folks. So I said it again. I'll say it one more time. That was my fault on that one. I'll take full accountability on that one. If you put your money down, let me know in the comments. I'll say sorry.
That's right. And guess what? And when we win you money next time, we want to hear thank you. You know what I'm saying? But listen, that's neither here nor there. AJ, that was our accountability hour. Now let's talk about some fight breakdown. But before we do that, folks, I want to remind you, subscribe to the show if you haven't already. Tell a friend to tell a friend. This is your favorite fighter's favorite fight show. And AJ, one more time, really quickly, just let the people know we are competing for something this week or this year,
absolutely.
Right? Yep.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, folks. Derek started to cut you off right there, but you can see in one of the last slides over there, Derek was the winner of the week. And this fight that we have going for all the year long for those gold belts right behind him make me a little jealous, because now I'm only one fight ahead, brother. If you're a fan of this show, you know Derek has come back from a lot further of the deficits, and now I'm trying to put my foot on the gas even more. We're both hungry. It's basically 0-0 in the last quarter of the year. This one's getting exciting, folks. Better tune in and stay tuned.
That's right. And AJ, just to give you a little solace, you are up 2 fights, my friend, 2 fights. So you got a little bit of a lead still, I'm pretty sure, man. So let me bring it up one more time. Yeah, 93 for me, 95 for you. Yep, 2 fights, my friend. All right. That's all for that, folks. Let's talk about some fights. Let's get it.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ. Surgical, clinical, masterful, vengeful. AJ, what else can you describe this performance? Ciryl Gane came out motivated, relaxed as ever, and in Bon Gamin fashion, he broke down Serghei Spivac in a way that felt malicious, but at the same time kind. What did you make of this matchup, man?
I like the way you phrased that there, Derek. Surgical, tactful, but vengeful. That last little bit that we haven't seen that last little bit out of Ciryl Gane yet. He's always been the kind guy. He's always been the classic, just normal striker, there to have some fun, there to battle, but never really mad at you or looking to hurt you very viciously, right? Well, that changed all this week with Serghei Spivac, man. He literally was out there to prove a message, prove that he is the one going forward with ultimate damage and ultimate power. Nonetheless, the skills he already presented before. I like this new, and it's not a bad guy arc of Ciryl Gane. No means is he going to turn heel anytime soon. But I like this little bit of spice he's having on him. Do you think this carries on further into his fight future, Derek?
I think that his success will increase dramatically if he adds a little more venom into his approach to fighting, right? Just because I think that's also the reason he's good, though, is because he's so relaxed. And so I don't care about hurting you, so I can be locked into my flow state, right? I think that's where he's at. But when you can tell, right, once he starts sensing the kill, the feet start getting set. The shots start thudding a little bit harder. The standing hammer fists come out to the back of the head damn near, right? All the little things to say, get out of here, bro. I'm proving a point. And I think that Ciryl Gane felt disrespected in this matchup, given the narrative behind it. Serghei Spivac, who is an impressive sambo fighter, impressive grappler, and once he can get you down and he can hold you there, like, you're in trouble, right? But as I had mentioned, man, he's not John Jones. He doesn't present the same threat on the feet that will allow him to get as close as he needs to be to have success against Gane. And I think that he just kind of wanted to put that on full display, that there are indeed levels to this. AJ, what level is Ciryl Gane at? Is he in a class of his own? He's clearly not John Jones type there, but is he like 1A, 1B? Like, where are we at here?
If we're going classic tier ranking, Derek, John Jones is the ultimate S tier. He is at the top, but Ciryl Gane is right there, man. A class all day long. And I think what you were talking, or I liked what you were saying with the way he kind of needed to prove a point for this one. He is proving that there are levels to this game and that he is improving his own level to get up there. The first time Serghei Spivac shot for a takedown, when Ciryl Gane sprawled, he did it with authority. Not only did he just sprawl out, he made sure that Serghei Spivac's head hit the ground very hard to prove, hey, you can't get in close on me like that. And the rest of the fight, sure enough, man, Spivac was shooting from about 5 feet out. Gane was seeing everything. Is very impressive for him. I'd give him that A mark. Derek, what about you? Do you think he's been climbing that ladder, or is he still a little bit below A?
Well, the thing that we've seen is that the two guys who are at the pinnacle, Francis Ngannou and John Jones, were the kryptonite for a Ciryl Gane, right? However, once we started seeing him being matched up with literally everybody else, it's not even close, right? So my question becomes, there might be a new tier that kind of gets involved here, because we haven't forgot about Tom Aspinall and his rise as well. And he's right there saying, I want the winner of these two guys. If it's Ciryl Gane versus Tom Aspinall next, I think that's when we kind of figure out, aside from the S tier, if there was a tier between S and A, like those guys, the winner of that matchup, they would be firmly cemented right there. Would you agree?
I think we call that the hybrid tier, Derick, especially because Ciryl Gane and Tom Aspinall are both those new form hybrid heavyweight kind of fighters. I'm excited for that fight, man. I really do hope they lead that one up. Tom Aspinall has been on a rise. Ciryl Gane now kind of faltering a little bit, but still on the track to be to seeing that gold. I don't know. This would be a fun one. Maybe Tom Aspinall gets it done. We'll see. The speed of Gane always is very concerning, but at the same time, Tom Aspinall has the speed as well. That's going to be a very fun fight.
This is going to be a really fun fight here in the future, man. And I just wanted to point out one more thing. When it comes down to like these matchups, right? Ciryl Gane has this way of it's like almost like Groundhog Day. It's the same thing time and time again. He's breaking you down. He's beating up the body, and these guys have no answers for it. And I think that the real knack that he has is that he overloads his opponent with so much data, right? He hits you. So it's going to be that little like side push kick into the knee, kind of oblique kick, calf kick, teep to the body. I'm going to throw something up top. It's like, at a certain point, Spivac is like, do I guard my body? Do I guard my head? If I guard my body, I'm going to get kicked in my head and knocked out. And these guys just don't have an answer for it. So until we see a guy with an answer like a Tom Aspinall, I just think that leave all these guys alone. Let them all be in championship tier, and everybody else just watch out, because the heavyweight division is flourishing at the top right now, I would say. But with that being said, AJ, that was the main event. That was a fun one. But this here, AJ, this one had the most implications. The beast, Manon Fiorot. She does it again. And this has quickly become, for me, AJ, a tale of a fighter that you constantly say, you're really good, but are you that good? And they have to prove themselves, and they prove themselves with flying colors every single time. There was a moment that the broadcast team brought up where Manon Fiorot was on the stool. I think it was maybe after the second round. And she told her coaches, she almost like told them with like shock, I'm winning this. Like, I'm actually winning. So it's like, first off, you have to overcome the mountain that is Rose Namajunas and all that she's accomplished in her career. But for her to be like, now I have the belief, I'm actually in real life seeing, I'm doing it, I'm beating up my idols who have, now become my rivals. And to see that she was kind of bullying around Rose, man, that was no good. But we have to talk about the elephant in the room. So before we bring in the broken, mixed up finger, AJ, do you think that Manon Fiorot in a 10-fight series would get the better of Rose Namajunas, no matter if there was a barred injury or anything like that?
Unfortunately, Derick, as much as it hurts for me to say it, yes. I think about 8, maybe even 9 times out of 10, it just seemed like Manon Fiorot was too big, too long, had too much skill already built up for the skill level of Rose Namajunas to kind of surpass that mountain. And admittedly, like you said, Manon Fiorot, the mental game that Rose presents is quite a hell of a mountain, because everybody's seeing her. She's been at the top of the pinnacle. She's been on the billboard. She has all the lights, all the stars, all the fans. And now you're trying to get to that. It is quite a mental leap. But when you realize it's just mental and now you have the physical attributes to surpass her, that's where Manon Fiorot really started to come in and shine. And with that one fight, you put them up, you rack them up 10 again. I do think Manon Fiorot is going to get a vast majority of them. And like I said, it hurts to say, but it just seemed like even with the broken finger, Rose Namajunas didn't have enough X factor to overcome Manon Fiorot's X factor. And like I said, it hurts to say it, Derick, but do you agree with me?
Yeah, man, and especially when you started seeing a couple desperation shots, like we need to mix it up, we need to get to the grappling, and then Fiorot was just sprawling every single time, nothing, no. And then the time that Rose actually was in deep on one, Fiorot was just too big, she just muscled out of it, right? So when all of the people, this is another point of the accountability hour, when everybody was kind of mentioning, hey, listen, Fiorot, she's literally just too big, she's too strong, and you can't really always take that into account in terms of a fist fight, because we've seen the differences before in terms of skill level. But this, I think, when you're in a comparable skill and you're bigger and stronger, that's when it's just like, man, it was too much to overcome. But AJ, really quickly, let me bring this on screen right here. So There we go. All right. I just wanted to show this really quickly, man. This is indeed Rose's finger. So when you have an injury like this that happens in the first round, and then Pat Barry is like, you don't need a finger, man. You'll be all right. Just keep fighting. Obviously, that's what he needed to do. You have to continue to motivate your fighter to compete. The fight's not over just because you hurt your hand, right? However, you have to agree, AJ, when your finger's sticking out like that, it's pretty damn hard to ball up a fist and actually throw it, and that's your power hand. So given that Rose had that level of success, having to be a southpaw fighter pretty much and work with her non-dominant hand, she was still tagging up Fiorot, man. What did this mean in terms of like the striking prowess of Fiorot? Because if you were getting tagged up like that, even in a dominant victory on a fighter with one hand, that does pose some questions. So what do you think?
Absolutely does it pose some questions, Derick. You know, if the power was there for Rose, if the combinations were there, if she was feeling in her flow state, would those combinations have worked? Because we did see Manon Fiorot get rocked a couple times, and not devastatingly, not shook into where she was, you know, back against cage, worried we were about to get her knockout. But she did get tagged up a little bit where she started to see, you know, the deer in headlights phase start to come out. But now you put in Rose with somebody who's or you put Rose in when she's confident, when she's 100%. I do think it does bode well, but still to that point, I think Manon Fiorot has the size and the strength to be able to, you know, shell up, close in, clinch up, and get out of it. And unfortunately, I didn't see anything on Rose's side that was able to overcome that. Did you?
I mean, not particularly, man. It was just a tough outing right there, and it was one of those where in the weigh-ins, I was like, man, Rose looks a little small, right? But I think she'll be all right. And then when she saw him in the cage, you're like, whew, she looks tiny in there, man. Fiorot is a beast. She absolutely is, man. So to flip it from the Rose hour to the Manon Fiorot hour, man, she's proved herself time and time and time again. Now she says, if I fight Erin Blanchfield, that's an easy fight on my trajectory over to the title. I just think right now, her momentum, we were talking about momentum coming into the week, her momentum has just been massive. But then this is going to be the last thing that I'll touch on. Even though I think she's a fantastic talent, two of her biggest wins to date have now been, even though Rose was much more credentialed, fighters who are much smaller, Tabitha Ricci and Rose Namajunas, where you're able to kind of perform and stunt on these fighters who don't have the same physical advantages. That's something we should probably keep an eye out once she has to fight an Erin Blanchfield, who we saw last time is big, man. You know what I mean? So any last words on this one?
I was just going to touch on that Erin Blanchfield fight a little bit, Derick, because that's what I'm excited for. That's going to be the real test of if whoever wins that fight is gold ready. Because, like you said, Blanchfield might not be as tall as Fiorot, but she is stout as can be, hits like a truck, and if you get her the opportunity, she's going to submit you. We've seen Manon Fiorot falter in those areas before, so I'm excited for that fight, man.
That's right. All right. Big win by Manon Fiorot, rising up those rankings. Number 3, probably going to be locked in. Either stay in number 3, number 2, something like that. But AJ, I would have to say that this was the wrecking ball of the night. Benoit Saint-Denis. He fights Thiago Moises, man, and he didn't make it really look competitive. This is a dude who we had already said, he's such a downhill fighter. You have to finish him if you want to win your fight, right? Only hiccup was against Elizu Zaleski. That was up a weight class, short notice, the whole 9, right? So in this fight against Thiago Moises, what were we scared of, AJ? It was the grappling. Benoit Saint-Denis does not care about your grappling prowess, clearly, man. Talk to us about what happened.
I was insane, Derick. I was so convinced mentally that Thiago Moises was going to be able to do some kind of damage on the ground, you know, something. And Benoit Saint-Denis was just going mad, like an absolute rabid animal, just in there, seeing the moves before Thiago Moises was even thinking about them and able to be 2 steps ahead of him. And Benoit Saint-Denis was an absolute killer. And you're right, Derick, not very competitive or not very a dangerous fight for Thiago Moises pulling forward. But were you ever worried at all when they started brawling and Benoit Saint-Denis was getting checked on the chin a couple times? Because admittedly, I was a little concerned. I was a little happy for Moises, but it's still at that point, even when Benoit Saint-Denis was getting clipped on the chin, he was still standing in the pocket, firm as can be, landing vicious elbows. It was like a damn Muay Thai fight. It was very fun to watch. Were you nervous?
I was nervous because there was one point, and even when I watched it back, man, I was like, he got clipped. And he was rocked, and you saw it for a second, right? And then he stumbled, and then shot in for a takedown and then was able to get it. And I was like, if you didn't get that takedown, we might be looking at a completely different fight. And then also, once he was putting on the barrage of shots in the second round to end it, I was thinking to myself, I was like, he has to get this, because if he does not get this, I can completely see Moises coming in round 3 and just finishing the job. You know what I mean? Just because you literally exerted all your energy. That's the problem. That's the only problem that I have, is such an exciting fighter, home crowd, you want to get the finish. But that was not the highest IQ fight, in my opinion, because the stakes were really high, man. This was a big win to jump him up to that next category. We talked about Moises being a gatekeeper. But if you lose the fight, that sets you back into a whole different spot, right? So I was worried about it right there, man. But do you think that, this is my real question, he's on a finish streak. Is this sustainable for Saint-Denis moving forward?
No, not if he fights like that going forward, man. If Benoit Saint-Denis comes in, stands toe-to-toe in a phone booth and brawling with some of the big boys in the division, I mean, we're talking 155 right here. You're talking the Michael Chandlers, the Justin Gaethjes, these dudes. There's even in the top, 8 and above, because Benoit Saint-Denis, it's going to be very, very hard for him to be able to have that kind of chaotic fight style and not go to sleep. If Thiago Moises is able to catch you 3-4 times on the chin and rock you, and then you're able to, advance, admittedly good for you, but these other boys, they can wrestle even harder, they can hit harder. There is a reason they are above in the rankings. You can't brawl like that. Even his coaches were saying it, stop brawling, because that is your one downfall that we can see presented. You lose your gas tank, your hands go down. It does pose a big deficit in his game, but I do think because of the French fans, and he was fighting in France, and he was, you're amped up. You want to get the finish in the hometown. I do think we won't see that kind of crazy, chaotic style from Benoit Saint-Denis. But at the same point, this guy's a finisher. He's on a finishing streak. Do you see him really learning from this lesson, Derick, or is it finish show all day long for Saint-Denis?
Finish show all day long for Saint-Denis, man. You could see it, man. The way that he sticks his arms out like a gladiator and just embraces the energy. It's like, it almost feels like this is a dude who just lives for that thrill, and you're going to continue to get it. That's why guys can't retire, because they want the thrill. They want that ego hit right there, that little dopamine hit, major dopamine hit. But listen, I will say this, man. If Saint-Denis keeps coming out like this and guys cannot get going because they're just getting such a clinic put on them, why stop? I mean, until it goes wrong, why stop? Huge win for the God of War, Benoit Saint-Denis. All right, AJ, moving right along to the Volkan Oezdemir fight versus Bogdan Guskov, AJ. And this is one of those where I'm not going to sit here and be like, sharps over here already knew the whole time Oezdemir, this was a smash spot. But I think it was clear to anybody that actually just did any film study that it's like, okay, why are we counting out Volkan the way that we are? I don't understand it. You got a major cash infusion if you just kind of bet a big sum on Oezdemir to win this, because I think he was like a minus 150, minus 175 favorite. In hindsight, why were people so high on Guskov in this matchup?
I don't know if people were so high on Guskov. Maybe they were. Maybe, it's the Russian striking coming in, the guy that's flashy, hands by his waist, he's flowing in, maybe. But I do think a lot more of the side was on the opposite side of the coin, where people were down on Volkov. People just kind of forgot who this guy is. He's old. He gets knocked out. He gets finished. There was so many things going against Volkov that I think it turned the narrative in everybody was for Guskov. But like you said, Derick, you do a little bit of film study. Anybody in the heavyweight division or light heavyweight, where their hands are by their hips and they're bouncing chin out in front of you, and against a powerful striker, it's almost nonsensical to think Guskov could have gone in there and really done some work. And hey, we could be wrong. He could hit a slide right out of the way, land a head kick, something super spectacular, but not against Volkov. I mean, not against an absolute vet like that. That's what worried me, and that's what had me confused about everybody really being so high on Guskov. Do you think it was that, Derick? Do you think people were high on Guskov, or were they just low on Volkov?
Well, let me correct you real quick. Volkan Oezdemir is who we're talking about, not Alexander Volkov. But yes, sir. I think people were low on Volkan Oezdemir for sure. But I think that the allure of a Bogdan Guskov, who just highlight reels all the dudes that he's fighting with just nasty one-shot power, I think that's also the allure. But this is the big thing. This is what I say. You have a dude who's fought everybody in Oezdemir, all the high elite top-tier guys, championship-level guys, and then a guy who just pulls off like a nice highlight reel, which is no discredit anywhere. It's just a matter of there's levels once again. And I think that from a wagering perspective, this was easy money all day long. It was just scary because this is a fight that Oezdemir was clearly supposed to win, and he won it in impressive fashion. My only troubling takeaway that I have from this is that there are so many people saying this is the most impressive performance to date for Volkan Oezdemir. And I was just like, look at who he has fought, and then look at the step down in competition. Like, it's once again, it was almost like common sense was thrown out the window, or people just forgot that Volkan Oezdemir is a monster. Like, I'm confused. He went from being no time, this big monster guy, to, oh yeah, Volkan Oezdemir, he still fights, and that's the what have you done for me lately-esque nature of MMA that we will continue to exploit and capitalize every single time, because that's free money in your pocket. You know what I mean?
Listen to the game. Derick just spit, folks, putting free money in your pocket, because that is seriously the narrative that was going on. Volkov went from no time to out of time just because we forgot about him. Like, how can you forget about the dude? Like, I don't even want to run off his hit list, because Volkan Oezdemir has fought the who's who of the light heavyweight division, done very well. Sure, he's in that middle tier, faltered a little bit, but you give him a guy on the UFC debut. Come on, folks. Free money right to your pockets. Listen to my man on the other side of the screen.
That's right. And then, folks, one more time. Volkan Oezdemir, not Volkov. Volkan Oezdemir, brother. You know what I mean? But it's all right. It's all right.
My bad, brother. I'm sorry.
If you're watching this, big dog, we know who you are. All right, big win for no time Volkan Oezdemir. All right, man, the last Pirate, he came on impressive against Manolo Zecchini. We confirmed the pronunciation is indeed Zecchini. But Charriere, man, listen, he's exciting. He's a highlight fighter as well. I just think he's a little more methodical. He's a little more technical, and he knew how to work that body, man. And what do you do against a guy who was ripped up with super low body fat? Is you just attack that midsection all day long. It almost felt like that was kind of the theme of the night, at least for the main card. But star potential is incredibly high for this guy, who was already a French MMA star, who is now in the UFC. Does Morgan, the last Pirate Charriere, in his division have an opportunity to become a Ciryl Gane, a Manon Fiorot, to become one of those other faces of French MMA?
I think so, Derick. In the 145, especially with the speed Charriere presents, and like you said, the tact, the discipline, the maneuverability, the footwork, all that kind of stuff going forward, he is already a star in the French scene. But can he make it in the UFC at 145? I think he has a very good shot. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to see him. I can imagine this guy hanging around top 15 to about top 8 area, really staying comfortable in that. But if we can get him past his comfort zone, get him pushed up into that, upper echelon of the MMA, then that's where I want to see how Charriere starts matching up against the speed, against attack, against all that stuff we're talking about. Because, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I was a little sad whenever Zecchini was over there getting pieced up, because I was like, damn, Charriere is just fast as can be. Very smart in the way he's attacking this fight. Looks like a world beater. I'm excited to see where Charriere gets placed up next, because he has the potential, I should say, to become a very big star.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And he didn't have to put out a lot of volume to get the finish, man. 26 total strikes, all significant. I mean, man, this dude knows how to make a debut in front of his home crowd. I'll definitely say that. I will also say, in my opinion, and this is a little bit of revisionist history, but this is kind of the way that I felt about it going into the matchup, is I felt like he got how would you say, there's no gifts in the UFC, right? We don't do gifts, we don't do warm-up fights, but sometimes you get a showcase bout. And it's against a guy that you know that you probably should beat, and this is your opportunity to get a nice highlight reel finish. What better than to push this guy who has the fancy-looking hair, he has the personality, the big gorilla tattoo on his back, the last Pirate, man. Like, this is a guy who I think that they're setting his rolling out party, his debut party, I guess, if I will. I know you said top 15 to top 8, but I want you to take a prediction, man. Out of all of the French stars, right, the Ganes, the Fioros, the Charrieres, the William Gomez's, Benoit Saint-Denis, the Imovovs, right? Of all of these guys that I just named, there's not a bunch of active guys right now. Like, who is going to be that person who is like that Conor McGregor for France? Because I think Ciryl Gane is super impressive, but I don't think popularity-wise he's quite there.
I don't think popularity-wise he's right there. Off of that list you just rolled off, I'd probably say Saint Denis, especially because he has the viciousness, the power, and the ability to finish his fights in that way. Now we just need to see him on the mic to really, boost himself into that next level. But barring that, and I do think Charriere probably has the next best fitting for it, because he already has all those intangibles, can finish those fights, but it's only his first fight in the UFC. I don't think a lot of people are going to forget the name Charriere, but at least in the race right now, I do give the edge to Saint Denis. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty fair. I was going to say the same thing, especially because you got the French special forces and, the God of War samurai Bushido style and all that good stuff, man. So listen, French MMA, it's going to be popping here very soon. Big win by the last Pirate. And AJ, that is your main card. So with that being said, man, this was not a bad night. This was good on the pocketbooks, good on our records moving forward and all of that good stuff for the most part. And listen, we're back to the basics come next week because we have a pay-per-view that we're going to be talking about. But AJ, let's talk about a couple prelim bouts really quickly, man. So I'm just going to take a quick gander down the Tapology page, and we're just going to talk about a couple. Farid Basharat versus Cledson Rodriguez, man. Let's talk about that one more time. Bash Bros, man, they're nasty, they're vicious, and these guys are finishers. Slow, methodical. He broke Cledson Rodriguez down, submitted him with an arm triangle. I mean, it was very reminiscent to Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira. Do Bronx right there, man. You don't want to see it that way, but it was beautiful to watch. What'd you think?
Beautiful to watch, Derek. What I like most about Farad Basharat, and in fact the Bash brothers in general, they can fight multiple styles of fights. You want a wild, chaotic, just scrap, these guys are going to pull it out. You want a very calculated breaking down of somebody and exploiting your skills against theirs. These guys will pull it out. Basharat brothers are here to stay. This is going to be a fun one. Even though his brother did drop a last one, I do think we're going to see these bros in a long time. Nonetheless, Farad is going to do very good things here moving forward.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I just thought it was nasty because of how slow and methodical it was. I'm over here saying fireworks, we're going to get a barn burner striking affair. And he just said, I'm just going to take you down. I'm going to pass your guard. And I'm just going to, that's beautiful. Nora Cornoli, apologies. She looks like a next big thing right here. But in her fight against Jocelyn Edwards, some would argue she should not have gotten her hand raised. She got controlled on the mat for a majority of the fight. But she had the bigger moments. And AJ, damage versus control, man. You can never know what to trust. Damage normally reigns supreme. Really quickly, I do want to pull this up really fast. This is MMA decisions, and if you can see, it's pretty evenly split. If I'm counting hairs, it's probably Edwards favored by like one pick or so. But this is almost 50-50. When you have a controversial decision, and it's 50-50 in the media's eyes, and then the referee, or the judge, scores it for a certain party, would you then argue that there's no way it can be robbery? Instead, this is just a close fight?
Yeah, I can see the argument, Derek. The thing that kind of blows my mind, because I upset when this fight ran out? No, but I was a little shocked. I did think Jocelyn Edwards did enough to pull it out. But what blew my mind more, the 30-27s. 30-27, you didn't even give her a round at all, where if you look at all the, the MMA scores, the media scores, nobody had a 30. I didn't have a 30. I thought this was a lot closer fight. That's what kind of blew my mind right there. What about you, Derek? Were you shocked by the scorecards? Did you think the right woman won this fight?
It was one of those where I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, man. I was all like, you know what? Like, Edwards should win the fight, but I was not going to be surprised that Cornoli, I'll get it right once we get the big win, you know what I mean? I was not surprised to see her get her hand raised, especially with the conviction that she had in her eyes being like, oh yeah, I won this fight. And I was like, yeah, you sure about that? I don't know. But I thought it was an interesting bout nonetheless. I think that Jocelyn Edwards, for me, this is just a lesson that I've learned watching and wagering on her fights over the years, is it's never a safe bet with Jocelyn Edwards. She wins the fights that people say she should have lost. She loses the fights she should have won. It's just a kind of tough up and down career. But I was impressed by the grappling of Jocelyn Edwards. I was definitely impressed. I was also impressed by Angelusa, man, and his win over Rhys McKee. Listen, that was a banger. That was pretty much a fight of the night scrap if it weren't for the Benoit Saint Denis affair. But Rhys McKee, man, you got to feel for him. He had the moment where he, quit on the stool in his UFC tenure, wins championships in Cage Warriors, comes back, and Angelusa just kind of puts it on him until that third round where McKee was starting to come back. But other than that, this was pretty much one-way traffic. What'd you make of it?
Pretty much one-way traffic, but I do got to give credit to Rhys McKee, man, to stay in there after the onslaught that the first and the second round had, and then come back and get your licks back, bro. I bet it must have felt very, very nice. Mm-hmm. Sure, you lose the fight. You know you were losing that fight. But to come back, put some damage on the man, let him know you're still there. You're still one of the big dogs here to fight. It was a good performance, but, man, Angelusa just looked like a world beater, brother.
And for Rhys McKee, this is a tale, and for me personally, of a man who showed tremendous self-development. And this is what I mean in terms of that natural growth. when you're getting beat up, your eyes swelled up, you're trapped against the cage, and a 170-pound man, well, a man who weighed in at 170 pounds, probably much larger than that at that point, smashing your face in, you're probably getting PTSD remnant thoughts of, I can just quit right now. I don't want to be here. I've already done it before, right? But that's it right there, AJ. That's what we applaud. You don't care, win or lose, that is aside from the point. And sorry, folks, that I'm going off on this tangent, but win or lose, that is aside from the point. The point is you never disrespect the man or woman who had the courage to step into the octagon in the first place, step into the battlefield, step into whatever the case may be. That's a win in and of itself. So to see that he was in a tough spot, rallied himself to not quit, and then rallied back to actually, if this was one of those tales of fighting to the death, he was in the driver's seat at the end. Now, this is a sport and it doesn't work that way, but you do have to, for a quick moment, man, give massive appreciation and respect to the development of Rhys McKee, correct?
100%. That's exactly what I was leading into, Derek. You have to respect the heart, the bravery, and the game of Rhys McKee. He's a dog. He's not there. Yeah, sure, it happened in his past, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen again. This was very, not impressive performance, but impressive showing of heart. You got to love it.
And then what do you make of Taylor Lapilus over Calvin Loughran, man? Listen, dude came in, Loughran played heel, undefeated, pretty much just disrespected all of France, you know what I mean, in the whole lead up, and then pretty thoroughly got decisioned against Lapilus right there, man. So it wasn't a good start to the career. Definitely made people pay attention, made me want to watch the fight. I knew these guys were both good. Lapilus, this is the second UFC stint, but yeah, pretty clear for Taylor Lapilus. What'd you make of it?
Pretty clear for Taylor Lapilus. This was an unfortunate one for me, Derek, because this was my sleeper. I was expecting this one to have fireworks from the jump. Both of these dudes are finishers. You heard Loughran coming in, just like you said, disrespecting France, disrespecting everybody. He's here to make the new big splash, and he got splashed on. It was pretty unfortunate. This was a good fight nonetheless, but not exactly the sleeper I was expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And then lastly, man, we had Jacqueline Cavalcanti versus Zarah Fairn. Listen, man, we didn't learn what we needed to learn from Cavalcanti, even though she came in on short notice. Former LFA bantamweight champion, comes into the UFC, fights Zarah Fairn, who's much larger at 140-pound catch weight. It's 4 losses in a row for Zarah. We didn't learn enough, but I thought it was an interesting matchup, I suppose. It was a very slow start to the card. Any thoughts on that one?
That's exactly what I was about to say. Very slow start to the card. Couldn't really gain much from it. Didn't really put much forward. Good fight nonetheless, but yeah, not too much excitement there.
All right, folks, with that being said, that is your prelim pour over, and we're going to jump into a rankings review to assess what is going on in these crazy divisions that we have. But before we do that, friendly reminder, if you're at this point in the video and you have not subscribed yet, I encourage you, no, I urge you, no, I demand, I'll never demand, but I will ask you, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend. This is your favorite fighter's favorite fight show. We're here to win you money, give you correct picks, and then give you the status to go tell your buddies, oh yeah, I'm just an expert, right? You don't got to tell them you get your picks from the Bloody Water podcast, but the real ones know. All right, man, let's move on to a rankings review. AJ, today, who do we need to talk about, man? Let's pop this thing up, man. Who are we talking about today, AJ? Heavyweight division, we've already really covered that. The women's flyweight division, that could be a little more interesting right there. That could be something to explore. So, AJ, why not explore it? All right, man, so let's take a look. And on the far left, you have the UFC's consensus rankings. At the very top of the screen, or in the middle of the screen, you have my rankings, and then on the far right, you have AJ's rankings. As you can see, we were all pretty much updated from last week, so this is pretty much current standings, man. Now, Erin Blanchfield, on my rankings, UFC's rankings, your rankings, all surpassed Manon Fiorot in her last win over Taila Santos. Manon Fiorot defeats somebody who's not on this list, but Rose Namajunas, which is also what I want to talk about here today, AJ. We need to place her somewhere. Rose Namajunas, being number 2 in the strawweight division, former champion, that's a big win, and it counts, right? Does Manon Fiorot, has she done enough with that victory to get back to that number 2 spot, or are we firmly placing her and keeping her number 3?
I think I'm firmly placing her in number 3. I do think she gets one on Taila Santos. You can see in my ranking, you're highlighting it right now, Derek. It's hard too because Taila Santos is also a very big, powerful girl, has good wrestling. So I like to see that mix up. But at the moment, I do think Manon Fiorot out-edges her. But I'd also put Rose Namajunas right below that, in that number 5 spot, right above Jessica Andrade. Because obviously, even though Jessica Andrade did just slam her on her head, and now she's in a bigger weight class, I might have to rethink that as well. But man, this makes it very, very interesting going forward. Yeah, I don't know. This is a shakeup, Derek. Where do you think? Obviously, are you keeping Manon Fiorot there? But then where are you inserting Rose?
Well, so that's the thing. On one hand, we have to just kind of even figure out, does Rose stay in the division, right? A lot of people are saying, you're not a flyweight, man. Fiorot said it. She's like, she's not a flyweight. She shouldn't be fighting in this division. And honestly, I agree. You know what I mean? After seeing that, if you're fighting any of these big girls, man, it's just going to be an uphill battle for all of these. It's like an unnecessary risk, posing back to what we talked about in the pre-show. But that's the thing. If I want to put her at 4, I don't think she wins against Taila Santos, just given the size disparity once again and the equal grappling chops. Jessica Andrade, well, there are 1-1, right? So it's like 1-1 against Andrade. I don't know. Andrade technically has had more success. She beat Chookagian at flyweight. So technically, Andrade should probably stay there. If she even should be here in the first place. That's a whole nother debate right there. But then it's like, okay, Chookagian. That's what I was thinking the whole time. I was like, she couldn't beat Fiorot, but could she have beaten Caitlin Chookagian? And I don't know about that one either. AJ, what do you think?
I'm leaning towards yes, but again, this might be my biases as a Thug Rose fan. I think she can get one over on Chookagian, but at the same point, Chookagian's very technical, very crisp, especially with her shots up the middle. So I don't know if Rose would be able to get close in enough to do some damage, but I do think Rose has the speed on Chookagian right there.
And this is where we kind of hit a cliff. So, like, if you're like a fantasy football fan like I am, AJ, I know you like to, play every now and then, but they have tiers for the players, right? If we're tiered up the UFC's rankings, not S tier, A tier, B tier, but just like literally like, where does the division hit a cliff where it opens up? And I think at 7 and down, it opens up massively, right? So then you get Lauren Murphy, Macy Barber, Jennifer Maia, and AJ. Now, after seeing what she has done in that matchup in the flyweight division, I just don't know with certainty if these are winnable fights. And I'm not saying this with disrespect of like, oh, you're not a Rose fan anymore, or you're off of a bad performance. It's not even that, because she was compromised. Her finger was, we already talked about all that. But I'm just now talking about grappling. I'm talking about a strong Lauren Murphy, a strong Macy Barber, Jennifer Maia, not as much, but Viviane Araujo, man, those strong people who can grab you. And once they do that, we saw manhandling in the grappling. Have I gotten too deep in this, AJ? Is Rose top 10 in the flyweight division?
I don't think you've gone too deep, Derek. I'm kind of a little worried now, too, because you're right. Lauren Murphy, very strong wrestler. Macy Barber, same kind of thing. Viviane Araujo, yes. Is she a top 10? I think she can probably easily get one on that Amanda Hebos, but even then, I don't know, Derek. I don't know. I do think at least as a Thug Rose fan, I'm hoping we see her drop back down to her normal weight class. But right here, this is a hell of a mountain to climb with a lot of very, very dangerous girls on it.
Exactly. So you imagine either you can go back to strawweight, you were 1-1 against Wei Li, you can go ahead, or you're 2-0 against... Yeah, 2-0. It was the split and the knockout, right? You're 2-0 against Wei Li. You can go there. You can go get your belt back. You know what I mean? Who knows now? But you can go get your belt back against Wei Li. Or you can be relegated to a 10 to 15-ish ranked fighter in the flyweight division, and you're at a massive disparity every time. Folks, this was much longer than 60 seconds, but that was indeed your rankings review for the women's flyweight division. Now, well, here we are, AJ. We made it to another outro. As I had just mentioned a little bit earlier, next week we have a pay-per-view, UFC 293, Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland. I do believe this might be in Australia. I think this one's in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. Otherwise, it's going to be in Vegas. AJ, do you know?
I don't know. I'm looking it up right now, Derek.
All right. Well, while he is looking it up, folks, I just kind of want to run it across the board one more time. If you're not subscribed to my man AJ on YouTube, go to YouTube at Santa Fe Bomber across all channels. Hit me up on Twitter, D496. Really, I care much less about that. What I really care about is that you subscribing to this show right here, the Bloody Water Podcast, right? And then you commenting down below every time that we make you incredible amounts of money. Because the record at this point, man, we running it up, AJ. Really quickly, let me just take a peek. Let me pop it open just so that we can show the people one more time, because you know the accountability is always important. If you're looking at lifetime records, I'm going to pop it up for the people. 60% for me, 57% for my man AJ. You want to look at 2023. We did not update this. Let me update it really quickly just so you guys can get the current numbers. Boom, look at that. 59% on the year for me, 60%, pretty much 61% for AJ right there. This is what's important. This is what's important right here. This is what we're providing you guys week in and week out. So I just needed to showcase it one more time. AJ, now, what do we have? Is it Australia?
It is Australia. They're fighting out in Sydney, new at the Endeavour. Oh no, the Kudos Bank Arena. Either way, folks, it's going to be a fun fight over there with the last style bender, and I want to call him Sean All-American Strickland, brother, or maybe even down south Strickland, because it is he has quite the mouth on him. But either way, folks, whether you're a numbers person or whether you're a proof in the pudding person, Derick just showed it to you right there. We're winning you money consistently, staying accountable for the times we don't. All we ask you to do. Never mind. All I demand you do, Derick might be asking, but I'm over here on the other side of the coin. I don't mind playing heel for a little bit. You better be pushing that button, because if you're not, you're just a bad person and you're not one of the good friends that's helping the other friends win some money. So make sure, be a good person, win everybody around you some money, and let us know when you do, because we're going to be here consistently winning you money. So at least drop it down below. Your favorite fighter's favorite fight show for a reason.
That's right, folks. AJ says it all the time. I'm going to coin his term right there, or I'm going to take a page out of his book. Don't be a bad friend. Subscribe. Tell a friend. You know what time it is. That's it for us, folks. Catch us next week on Friday for the UFC 293 preview show. And we'll catch you on the flip. Until next time, folks. Peace.